Welcome to the Food Professor Podcast, presented by Cattle, Season 5, Episode number 38. I'm Michael LeBlanc.
And I'm the Food Professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Our very special guest on this episode, recorded live at the Seattle Food Innovation Show in Toronto, is Tonia Jahshan, founder and CEO of Steeped Tea, now known as Sipology. Started with one powerful idea: a single sip can change your life. What an amazing story. Briefly, she suffered a painful miscarriage, traveled to Nova Scotia, had her first ever cup of loose leaf Earl Grey de la Creme tea, and it changed her life. She actually felt better, and Sipology was born 2007.
Yeah.
Her first sipologist, as she describes, joined, and she's a multi-level marketing go-to-market. Business does really well. She's expanding products. She was showing us. She brought a ton of samples. I'm drinking some right now. Right now, I am drinking her naturally sweet tangy peach tea, which I'm just mixing in a nice cold water in my Last Request barbecue.
They're great products.
Vessel.
Yeah.
Great product.
And we tasted some at Seattle when we were interviewing her.
Yeah, it was fantastic. The idea is replace unhealthy habits with better for you products. And now she's turning her mind to traditional retail, hence her presence at Seattle to continue her growth trajectory. She was on Dragon's Den. Anyways, fascinating story. Great entrepreneur. I remember, before Seattle, you said, no matter what we do at Seattle, we've got to interview this woman because it's an amazing story. And you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and she was walking the floor. She wasn't even exhibiting. And so I was glad that she was able to join us. And I met Tonia a few weeks before. I was actually invited to be part of a panel, an event organized by M&P, EDC, and RBC in Toronto. And I didn't know who she was, but my goodness, she impressed me on the panel. I was just listening to her. Full of energy, confident. She's taken over the world. She wants to take over the world. And frankly, I think she's going to take over the world, really. After Seattle. Energy. She actually went to Asia to meet some potential buyers, and Canada would be a better place with more Tonia. I can tell you that.
Well, it's a fantastic interview. We'll get to that a bit later. Now, you sound, and to our YouTube watchers, you look a bit different. Where are you right now? Where are you? Where are we finding you today?
I think you should start saying you sound different because you're home. I'm always traveling these days, although I'm back home next week. But I am at College Station in Texas at Texas A&M. I had my first few official meetings yesterday. I was checking out the town. It's just a massive campus and great people. I was greeted with a hug by the dean. Can you imagine? Seriously, I never got that at Dal. I did get that at Guelph, though. I mean, Guelph is a really huggy kind of place. But I must say, really, really thrilled to join Texas A&M. Great bunch of people.
And now you're going to be overseeing the Masters in Agribusiness program. Do I have that right?
Texas A&M hired a Canadian to manage the U.S.'s #1 ranked Masters in Agribusiness and #3 in the world. No pressure.
No pressure. Now is that a 2 academic year program, or what is that?
Yeah, it's a 2-year program, and it's a 2-year professional program basically. And when students leave the program, they typically go and work for agribusinesses like Nestle, Pepsi, GPS, Cargill, Tyson, those types of companies. So these are great students. I've actually met a couple of them yesterday. Of course, they all come back in August, and we'll actually talk to them more often. I'll meet them more often. As part of my role, also, I'll be chairing a intercollegiate forum of faculties, because the programs that I'll oversee is supported by 2 faculties: the Ag Economics faculty, the Ag faculty, and the Business School, which is the Mays Business School. Here at Texas A&M, and they actually have 5 buildings, the business school alone.
Wow.
And I got to tell you, I went there yesterday to meet the dean of business. I got to tell you, it was impressive. Very impressive. And it's all funded by alums, right? Alumni are extremely generous, and they actually support their schools quite a lot. And it's the same for the ag school as well.
Now, I was going to say universities have been in the news in America lately. Harvard, I guess, particularly. I was shocked at how much federal funding, government funding, went into universities like Harvard. Is that the case at Texas A&M, or where does their money come from? Is there concern there, or is there like a little bit of okay, that's happening to Harvard, but not us? Give us a bit of context, because we're all reading about it in the paper.
Yeah, so I mean, Texas A&M, I can't speak about other schools, but as far as Texas A&M goes, most of the funding is private, essentially, or comes from businesses or alumni, really. And so they're not very overly concerned about what's happening right now at Harvard. Obviously, there is some sympathy because, I mean, all institutions are always concerned about freedom of speech, academic freedom, which are pillars to research. And so certainly this is something that they are focusing on very much. But at Texas A&M, I mean, the focus is very much on excellence, training students so they can actually get good paying jobs, and growing the economy, basically growing the agri-food economy in Texas and abroad. That's certainly the focus for the program that I'm overseeing right now.
Well, it's great discussion. And, as we continue to do the pod and as we get back into season 6 into the fall, I just want to learn more about how big that economy is. And, I'm looking forward to having that discussion as you get more and more hands-on with the U.S. agri economy. What lessons can we learn? And we'll get a good front row seat on what's happening.
Oh yeah, and I'll continue to actually comment in the media about the Canadian agri-food sector, but it's probably going to be, most of my comments will be inspired by some of the things that I'm seeing and hearing in the U.S. for sure.
Well, let's dive into the news of the week, and I wanted to start with the kind of Lord of the Rings PM mandate letter. Now, this sounds like a kind of a geeky thing, one to talk about on a podcast. But typically, for the audience, at least in the Trudeau and past regimes, each minister would get a mandate letter from the prime minister saying, here's what I want you to accomplish. Now, that was very prescriptive in the Trudeau era. It was each had a long list of things, go do them versus be creative. Now, Prime Minister Carney's taken a different approach where he said, I'm going to set some very high-level objectives, and you all figure out how to interpret them within your relative ministry. Now, I wanted to ask you now, just in case some of people haven't read the mandate letter. That's a bit of a joke. Who reads mandate letters? But I do. I do too. But I don't know how many listeners are reading a mandate letter. Number 1, establish a new economic security relationship. Number 2, and strengthen our collaboration with reliable trading partners. 2, build Canadian economy by removing barriers to interprovincial trade. I like all the sounds of this so far. Bring costs down for Canadians to help them get ahead. Something about housing, something about sovereignty, something about talent. Spend less on government. Now, my question to you, my friend, is I'm going to wave a magic wand and make you Canadian Ag Minister for a day. You're looking at this letter from the Prime Minister. What would be, your charge to your deputy ministers in your department? Is it, okay, here's the big picture. Here's what the government wants to achieve. What do we do within that? What would be your first couple of 3 things that you'd start working on as an ag minister?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to wait until the throne speech to have a better sense of what's in store, and frankly, other than
magic is in store. All throne speeches. It's just magical thinking. I love the throne speech.
I know. And other than supply management, there wasn't a whole lot for the agri-food sector. Obviously, the king celebrated the achievements and contribution of farmers, but there wasn't a whole lot more to that. So going back to the mandate letter, you can do a lot of things with that letter, to be honest. It was overarching, philosophical to a certain degree. As an ag minister, you can do a lot of different things with that. But my concern with the ag minister so far is that it's been all farming, very farm gate oriented. And frankly, I've always been opposed to that view. I think the future for the agri-food sector in Canada belongs to a value chain focus, and that's not what I'm hearing so far, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that at some point things will pivot a little bit. There is this commitment towards processing, which is great, and there is this commitment towards developing trades with other regions around the world beyond the United States, which is great. But have you heard Prime Minister Carney or the Ag Minister talk about tariffs we're facing with China, tariffs we're facing with India? I mean, there's just nothing being discussed right now, and I'm greatly concerned, because if you are to develop new markets, you have to have India and China on top of your list, and there's still nothing out there.
Well, I guess it's nested. One could charitably say it's nested in those top priorities, right? We'll have better trading partners. We'll have more trading partners. We'll trade with each other. I mean, nested in that, without saying the words out loud, are China, India, interprovincial trade, so you can actually sell wine in the province of Quebec from Ontario. So I guess they're nested in that. But
the reality, I think, I think there needs to be this recognition in Ottawa that Canada really is not good at geopolitics, is not good at global trades. It's like Canada's like water. We'll go towards the easiest route. We'll take the easiest route to get to the destination, which is why we're highly reliant on the United States. You have to be strategic, and frankly, when you make changes and that you have a problem, recognizing that you do have a problem is the first step. And I haven't heard that from either the Prime Minister or the Ag Ministry yet.
You mentioned the speech from the Crown by the King, which was kind of fun to see, right? And kind of a bit of a historical moment with the King. I thought it was a great tour. He represented well, I thought. Whatever.
Well, he was in Canada for less than 48 hours, I think, and based on, the coverage was pretty good. I think it was a successful trip.
I'm no monarchist. I'm no abolitionist either. I'm kind of somewhere like most Canadians. I'm like, that's an interesting quirk.
It's just based on the Angus Reid poll. 84% of Canadians couldn't care less that the King was actually reading the throne speech, while 84% of Canadians are concerned about our sovereignty. So, yeah, I always take these surveys with a grain of salt. I actually do think that people recognize the monarchy as an important state political stabilizer. Let's face it. You need the only democratic system that has ever have never gone through a revolution is the Westminster model that we have in Canada. So it's pretty stable. A lot of people question our democracy once in a while, but it's a pretty stable system.
So from the throne speech, which I didn't pay myself a whole lot of attention to, the one thing I am going to pay
a lot. You didn't listen to it like 3 times? That's all I'm hearing right now. I'm just rewinding the tape.
Got it on rewind. You're sampling it for your runs. I'm really interested in, I think the more important thing for our lives is the upcoming Premier's meeting in Regina next week. Yep. And I guess that's where we're actually going to see material things happen. That's certainly at a minimum on interprovincial barriers. We've talked about in the pod deals between Ontario and Halifax, or Ontario, Nova Scotia, Ontario, Manitoba. I expect to see more.
You saw that Prime Minister Carney is kind of downplaying the July 1st deadline now. He's committing to having a deal. He's not committing to erasing all barriers now. So you're right. They've always believed that
that was magical thinking to begin with.
I know. I think the heavy lifting will come from premiers. And so obviously they have a huge role to play. And frankly, I have to commend Premier Ford's effort there, and Premier Houston from Nova Scotia, and Premier Canoe from Manitoba. They all see what needs to be done. And obviously, Premier Smith, along with Premier Eby, I've always believed that relationship has always been good, although recently it has been great. You do have a very conservative government in Alberta with a NDP government that doesn't always work well, but typically I think there is some momentum. I just hope that will continue.
You mentioned tariffs. Let's talk about, you've been on a bit of a tear this week. You're not here, but you're here. You're publishing a lot of stuff. And one of the things that caught my attention was tariffs on tea. Let's talk about, as the kids would say, the tea, about the gossip on this. I have to admit, I've completely lost track of what's tariffed and what's not tariffed. Why are we putting a tariff? Confused. Why are we putting a tariff on tea?
Well, did you see Loblaw's report this week? The insider's report, very interesting. So a few weeks ago, Loblaw was very alarmist. We're going to have to raise the price for 6,000 products. But yesterday they came out all of a sudden downplaying the impact of counter tariffs, saying, well, actually things are improving, recognizing that there is a reprieve. As we've talked about this last week, as of May 7th, a lot of tariffs have been postponed. But there are categories that are still being tariffed. Citrus, coffee, alcohol, and of course, tea. Tea is a $1.3 billion market in Canada, and we do not have a tea industry in Canada. We import all of it, and most of it is packaged in the U.S. So you actually have some tea importers that have actually paid well over $300,000 in tariff in 1 month, the month of March, and they're not finding it pleasant, to be honest.
So it isn't as that the tea is, obviously, America's not a big source of tea either. These teas come from around the world. And
Kenya,
so it's really,
Sri Lanka, that's right.
It's really, I guess, have we seen an impact on pricing in the Canadian market? Now, what I'm hearing from retailers of all sorts is, okay, I'm hearing a lot from our vendors who are being opportunistic and saying, I'm going to give you price, remembering that retailers take price in many instances from their vendors. And some vendors are saying, well, I'm going to, some of my ingredients are tariffed. My final product might not be tariffed, but my ingredients are tariffed. I'm paying more. You're going to pay more. Are you seeing any of this roll out, whether it's tea or any of this on the grocery shelf?
I've spoken to a few manufacturers and a couple of grocers have actually reached out and they're actually quite happy. They're happy that someone is speaking out, saying that counter tariffs aren't necessarily an issue. When it comes to food inflation. There are other factors, of course, pushing prices higher, but counter tariffs are no longer an issue for both processing and retail. So what you see around North America, and I'm actually in the U.S. here, and a lot of retailers are expressing their discontent towards the White House about tariffs, including Walmart, of course. So it's very political. We've politicized tariffs one way or another. I hope that's going to stop. But for tea, it's
no,
a
it
real
is a
threat.
very this is where we should pause the tape a little bit. And as you spend time in the States, the tariff situation is very, very different in the States, right?
Oh, absolutely.
They are facing, as all the listeners probably know, Liberation Day, and there's huge tariffs in the U.S. When we think of tariffs, primarily but not singularly, it's reciprocal tariffs, but we're not facing or we're not imposing the same level of tariffs that America is on our trading partners, right?
Consumer confidence in the U.S. is slowly rising, but it was very low. It was because of tariffs. It's funny, what I learned this week is that the real estate industry is being impacted by the tariff situation, because a lot of people are wondering, okay, so there's a bunch of tariffs going on. It's going to impact our cost of living. It's going to impact perhaps our jobs. So a lot of people have actually paused their project in buying a new house or looking at moving. So there's a lot of uncertainty right now in the U.S. Economically, even though numbers are actually quite encouraging. If you actually start talking to people here, a lot of people are nervous because of how the White House has actually handled the tariff situation, which has been, awkward at best, because we never know what to expect. But things in last week or so, I don't know if you noticed, things have calmed down a little bit.
Well, the Trump interval of backing off is collapsing, right? So, he threatened Europe with 50% on Friday, and then Tuesday he said, off. Well, never mind.
The market is basically considering that a lot of things that are being said right now by the president it doesn't hold water, and so that's what
it's
we're
just
at.
occurring to some people, I think, for some reason.
Exactly, and so that's probably why the markets are doing well despite the nonsense, despite the chaotic narrative coming out of the White House. But individual, I think consumers are still quite concerned. So it's going to take a while before things get back to normal, and people are willing to commit and make financial commitments for the longer term.
Moving on, but a kind of a connected issue, I guess, back to Canada is the bread price fixing scandal. Yep. I actually, so what got me thinking, of course, the court approved, what was it, a $500 million settlement or whatever.
Hey, but we're going to get $15 each. Woo!
I completely forgot that the Competition Bureau still hasn't closed that file yet.
I know.
Now, who oversees that bureau now? It's not it used to be Champagne, right? I don't even know.
It's Mélanie Joly.
What's this now? 7-8 years? Like, why is this file still open from your perspective? Like, what's going on?
Well, if you go back in time, so allegedly this bread price fixing scheme lasted 14 years from 2001 to 2015. And it ended when Loblaw came forward, went to the Bureau, requested immunity, and for 2 years, so that's
which they get, by the way, just for listeners to remind them, if you're the first one to say, we caught our people doing something wrong, put your hand up, you get immunity. That's not special to Loblaws. That's how the process works.
That's how it works, yeah. So it actually applied to both Loblaw and George Weston. And so in 2015, basically, they went on for 2 years investigating without other players knowing. And but in 2017, Galen Weston, the CEO of Loblaw at the time, announced that the company was part of this scheme along with George Weston, and offered all Canadians a $25 gift certificate. Only 3.8 million Canadians actually applied to get the certificate, which equals to about $96 million. So what we learned this month is that, of course, Loblaw agreed to settle all class action lawsuits, agreed to a settlement of $500 million minus the $96 million, and that was approved by the courts. Now, how that money will be given out, we don't know yet.
And just a fine point on it, just from my recollection, anybody could have applied for that card, basically, who said they bought bread.
Right, yep.
Not everyone did, but there was no limit. There was not a preset limit, from my recollection, set by Loblaw.
No, it was open. There was a limit. I think it was February 1st, 2018. That was
a date. Yeah, there was a deadline. Yeah.
That's right. And so, of course, in return, you had to give your home address. And I suspect that some people weren't comfortable with that. So they just decided not to share any information with Loblaw, and it never got the $25. For all of us, I think it's time for the Competition Bureau to make an announcement and end the investigation, because I actually don't think there's enough evidence which would suggest that the 4 other companies that are targeted by the investigation, so Walmart, Giant Tiger, Sobeys, and Metro, were involved. When we actually did the work with the Competition Bureau back in 2018, that predates the start of our podcast, but basically what we concluded was, yes, a bread price fixing scheme was possible with all 7 players. That would be, of course, Canada Bread, George Weston, and Loblaw included in the group. It was plausible to see something happen, but it's impossible to run a bread price fixing scheme in Canada without the involvement of Loblaw and George Weston. It was impossible because they have too much power, and it was a vertically integrated company. It was the only one. And so I think if you look at pricing over the last 25 years, you could see from 2015 to 2017 that prices actually went way down, because I think a lot of people inside the industry knew that Loblaw became a whistleblower, and prices started to behave very, very differently at the time.
Speaking of doing other things, let's move on to our great interview with Tonia Jahshan. But first, we're going to hear from our good friends at Cattle. Does your digital customer engagement strategy need a serious upgrade? Enter Cattle, Canada's consumer insights powerhouse with the largest, most active panel of everyday shoppers. They're not your typical sponsor. They're the voice of the consumer, always in the know on the hottest trends and shaping what's next. So why cattle? They go beyond consumer insights. They're trailblazing the future of ratings and reviews and leading the charge in user-generated content. With unmatched syndicated receipt data and the ability to gather reviews across any category, Cattle partners with giants like Walmart and Canadian Tire to deliver results that count. Visit askcattle.com now for an exclusive The Food Professor Podcast listener discount on your first review or research campaign today. That's askcattle.com.
Tonia, welcome to the Food Professor Podcast.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm awesome since meeting you 3 weeks ago.
It's very recent, very recent.
Yeah, it was.
And to be honest, so we were on a panel for our audience. We were both on the same panel. It was an event organized by EDC, RBC, and MNP. Mm-hmm. And it was a great event. I don't know what your thoughts are, but it was a great event. And you were on the panel, and I was absolutely drawn by your story, by your product, by your tone, your energy. It was great. So I thought, if you're at Seattle, I gotta have you on.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for taking some time to join us. So I guess to start things off, tell us more about you, how you became the person you are, the entrepreneur you are today, because you've been through a lot.
Yeah, 20 years now. It's 20 years this year. I can't believe it.
20 years of entrepreneurial life. That's like 100 years
right?
of regular life.
It feels like that. Oh my gosh, sometimes. 20 years ago, my husband and I were just newlyweds. We were 30, and he was 29. I was 30. So
and
I was
you're
like
still
robbing.
Together?
We're
you're
still together.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
I was robbing the cradle there a little bit, but we didn't want to waste any time, and so we decided we wanted to have a baby right away. And everything was great. We got pregnant almost immediately, and then we lost that baby. It was a miscarriage that happened far along. And anyways, that miscarriage, really devastated us. It wasn't something we were expecting. But what it did do was it brought us out to Halifax, Nova Scotia, where we were just there to get away from everything that just happened. And I discovered this amazing loose leaf tea called Cream of Earl Grey at this little bed and breakfast. And everything about this tea just made me so happy. The smell of it, the taste of it, the look of it. I mean, loose leaf tea 20 years ago was not something people
dust in a bag 20
It was
years
dust
ago.
in a bag, and it's still.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people drinking hot dog tea. That's what I call that. You never know what you're going to get in that tea bag.
Hot dog tea. Hey, where'd you grow up? Where were you born? You found yourself in the East Coast, but where are you from?
Cambridge, Ontario.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I live in Hamilton now. I married
Okay.
my husband, and we've been there for 20 years. That's
Right.
where he's from.
All right.
And so that tea I brought a whole bunch of it home for my friends and family. They loved it, and I thought, wow, you know what? I'm going to introduce my friends and family and their friends and family to loose leaf tea. And so I started researching where I was going to get this tea from. I always knew that I wanted to have my own brand. I didn't want to be someone else's brand. I could have done that. It would have been a lot easier, but I didn't. I called the company Steeped Tea at the time and made myself a little catalog, and away I went and did tea parties.
Yeah.
And
Where does all this come from, though? Like, were you always an entrepreneur? Like, as you said, you didn't want to waste any time. And, I'm already hearing this intersection of personal and professional, which we often hear, right? So we often hear this from entrepreneurs. But where did this, there's some people want to be scientists, some people want to work for other people for a living. Were you always entrepreneurial? Were you selling Kool-Aid at the end of the street?
Pretty much.
Kind of person?
Since I was like a little girl, since I was like 10, I was always doing something. But it was my father who gave me an opportunity of a lifetime when I was 30. Who said he had his own business. It was a sales and marketing agency, and he was selling hand tools and electrical equipment, and he wanted to retire, and he thought of no one better than me to take over his business. Before that, I was a preschool teacher for 10 years. I always, say this now, because I was embarrassed by it before, but I have a college degree. My husband is like an MBA graduate, a chemical engineer, all the things. And now I look at my life and I think, but you know what I have? I have moxie. I have such a great way of being a great salesperson and a marketer, right? And so I'm proudly say moxie. Yeah, I proudly say I went to college. After my 10 years of being a teacher, I went into entrepreneurship. I took over my dad's business, did extremely well.
That's a lot like being a teacher, though, right?
It was. Well, kind of. No, not really. No. Well, no. And I loved it. But then, of course, when I found this loose leaf tea, it was supposed to be just a hobby. It was. I just wanted people
side hustle, as they call it.
It was a side hustle at that time. But it grew, and I was doing upwards of 20 parties a month for people. And
20 parties a month?
A month.
That's almost like...
6 months into my business, yeah.
Wow.
And women started coming up to me and saying, hey, I love this. Like, can I help you sell this? And I'm like, you know what? I'm pregnant again. This time I'm pretty sure it's going to go forward. And yeah, I do need help. So we started bringing on consultants through the direct sales model.
Multi-level marketing.
Yeah. Fast forward 5 years later, I had 500 consultants across Canada, which now seems like a small number, but back then it was huge.
What is it now?
Now we're about 8,000 consultants across North America. And we have...
That means 8,000 listeners to the podcast episode.
That's right.
That's
and their
my
customers.
That's what I'm... Congratulations, by the way. But, it's all about me
greedy.
this morning.
So greedy.
I have 500,000 customers in my database. That's how many people get my newsletter. So trust me, this is going to go in the newsletter. I'm going to put that in.
That's
Now, is that in Canada or around the world? Or
just North America.
Just North America. So you do business in the States?
I do.
And my North America includes Mexico, so yes or no?
No, but I'm here to pitch to Mexico today. The second time I've been pitching.
Tonia is incredible. Like, she pitches to everyone, like
including the Dragon's Den, right? You were telling us you were on the Den, and I, we've talked to actually a lot of entrepreneurs who've been on the Den. Some of them have no intention of taking money; they just want the PR. Others wait, you mean you said yes and now you didn't stroke me a check? Others are like, the worst thing I did. Others, it's the best. Where do you fit in and all that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I went on that show with a mission, and my mission was that I was going there and I was going to leave with partners. I was, of course, I was happy about the recognition.
And what year was that?
That was 2012.
At the very beginning.
2012. So
almost
season 7.
You were pitching. You went there to get a deal, not to get PR, and what happened?
So we created a bidding war between all the dragons, and what a great position to be in, to be like the ones who had the power, right? Who were we going to choose? And we chose Dave Chilton and Jim Treleaven because of their knowledge of the MLM industry. Like, Jim was an Amway consultant for years. David Chilton was working with the Pulaski women with the...
the cookbooks.
Yeah, the cookbooks. And he was looking at...
spoons.
What is it? Looney Spoons.
Looney Spoons, yeah.
And he was looking at creating like a pampered chef sort of model with them. So they were so familiar with it, and we knew that they were perfect for us. Fast forward after that, things just got crazy. I mean, I had just had a baby as well, my third. I was pregnant on the show. They were so hoping I was going to go into labor. I know it. They wanted that.
Makes good TV.
Good TV.
Yeah.
But things just went like crazy. We were there on the set we had 1.3 million in sales when we went on the Den, and then 5 years later we were at 18.
Wow.
Like phenomenal growth, right? But too much. But it was a lot.
You were running.
I was running like a crazy person, babies. I had 3 children now under the age of 10. And by 2017, I start to felt the burnout. But by 2018, I end up in the hospital for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I was completely worn out. My mental health was in the garbage. One of the things that the doctor said that was contributing to my terrible health was my vitamin levels were critically low. Like, my iron was at 6. Normal is 60 to 100. My vitamin D was non-existent. I was just not taking care of myself.
When you gave birth, were you anemic
I'd always had low iron before, but never that low. Never that low. But I wasn't, like the postpartum depression, all the things. I just didn't pay attention. I knew it was there, but I was just too ambitious.
You were just focused.
I was just too focused on the business.
You weren't listening to yourself.
Wasn't listening. Didn't really care, to be honest. Yeah. I was just so driven. And that is when we decided...
I can't pick that up from just talking.
No, I was just so driven. And it took me years to get over that. But now I'm back to being driven again. But that's when we changed the name to Sipology. Because when I came out of the hospital, the doctors were like, you need a vitamin routine. I'm like, I hate pills. I don't like them. I don't remember them. I choke on them. Like, okay. So I went to the R&D team that works with us because we're vertically integrated, manufacturer, the R&D, the whole thing. And I said, can you please helped me develop a line. My husband's a chemical engineer, by the way, so great.
That's very,
very good
very
to have
practical.
in the family.
Yep.
And that's when we came out with our vitamin booster line. So they taste great. I wanted them to taste good. So the iron is Dutch chocolate, and the vitamin D is caramel mocha. Those were our first two, because those were my first two critically low vitamins. And the iron is made with alfalfa, and the vitamin D, get this, is the button mushroom. Is full of vitamin D. Who knew? Did you know that? Mushroom.
I didn't know that.
Button mushroom. Not just any mushroom, but the button mushroom.
Wow.
Yeah, so, 1,000 IUDs in that one little packet, and it tastes amazing. So I can throw it in my coffee. I can throw it in my yogurt, in my smoothie. Like, this is my smoothie routine. Our collagen, menopause, vanilla matcha, and these two, the iron and the iron and the vitamin D.
I'm intrigued by your menopause relief.
Yeah.
Is that a thing in the market? Is it unique to your company? Or
yes, that one is.
'Cause this is kind of genius.
Yeah. So
you know where I first started talking about that with Suzanne Summers on the Shopping Channel.
Oh yeah.
So Suzanne was
She
a
was a
big
pioneer
in a lot of at the time. She was kind of for her whole career, actually. She was dismissed as an actress, but she was a powerhouse, right?
Yeah.
And she was early into things like stevia and life changes, and she was actually quite forward. I miss her, actually.
Absolutely.
I got to know her a little bit.
Yep.
And,
you know what? She was a pioneer, and not enough women paid attention to it.
right.
Not enough women paid attention to it.
Or the industry didn't pay attention to it.
The industry didn't pay attention to it. It's only been the last...
You mean the male-dominated industry didn't pay attention to
I
it?
didn't say that.
I didn't say that.
But I sit on the board of our St. Joe's Hospital in Hamilton. I also sit on the board with CAMH, the Women Mind group, and this is what we talk about all the time, how only 2% of funding goes towards women's research. We are just never looked at, right? So women have had to advocate for ourselves.
It's really funny because you go into a shopping mall with clothing, like 70% of clothing stores are for women,
Right.
but when it comes to food...
And our health, it's
I
dismal.
know.
It's an elective course. Did you know that? That the doctors aren't even learning about us. They can elect to learn about us, but they don't really know about us, right?
Yep.
So perimenopause, big buzzword in the last 5 years. PMDD, which I was diagnosed with, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. I've had to go on medication for that. These are things that doctors don't know about. We, as women, have had to go and research and find the people who are actually listening to us, like
Right.
Suzanne Summers was, right?
Yeah.
And that's what she did. She went and just met with a bunch of doctors, and it just kind of opened things up. Let's shift gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, I mean, you've told us about the product. You can't see us. We're on a podcast, but we have a bunch of sachets of your product. Is this typically how it's delivered? Is this the format? So this is a small sachet pouch.
It used to be in bottles, but what we found is that our consumers if I'm going to remember to take this, I'm not going to be carrying my bottle everywhere. So that's when we invested
this is
in
very practical.
sticking machines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so is there anything in that? And you make this product yourself. You manufacture, not co-packed.
Nope.
And you talked about innovation. You have your own innovation team. You probably have some outside consultants that work for you.
So we do. Well, actually, what's great is that I invest in, or I apply for a lot of grants from the government. I'm a big believer in getting those grants. And we get a lot of students from the University of Guelph, right? Co-op students. And afterwards, we end up hiring them, right? To help us develop new products. So, yeah.
And how much staff do you have? How many people?
So currently we about 50 right now. In our R&D team, it's about 3, and then that rotates as grants come through. We get students, and then it could go up to like 5 or 6.
You flex larger, smaller, and all those.
Because all of these are Health Canada approved, by the way, as well. That's a big
plus.
Big.
And it's super easy to get it approved by Health Canada, right?
So easy.
Yeah.
Everyone should do it. It only took 2 years to get the menopause approved. Just 2 years, yeah.
I think you have to send a fax still today to Health Canada to submit.
I don't think so, but I wouldn't be surprised. But no, it's so slow. It's so inexpensive. And I'll give you, I don't know if you know, maybe you know this, but I'm not sure. Every single sample of our product. So when we make a batch of menopause relief, we have to take a sample and we have to send it to the government, to their lab, and they have to test it, okay? We have to wait for them to test it. They generally are pretty good. It takes them a week or so. And we cannot sell that product until it comes back with an approval.
What are you doing here at CL?
So I am here today because I'm pitching to 4 international buyers. I did a pitch on Tuesday to Japan. They were absolutely blown away by our matcha. We are the only company in the world that is developing innovative matcha. So we have 38 flavors of matcha. That one there is a fizzy matcha.
Innovative matcha. So I know matcha just as a green...
Exactly.
Fizzy matcha.
Yeah. Fizzy matcha sour. So
Wow.
it has like a bit of a, like it's a sweet and sour. It's like you know, like the sweet and sour candies.
Yeah.
But it's matcha first, and it has a fizz to it. This is my husband's pride and joy because he developed this formula. And all of our matcha he has formulated to dissolve in cold water. So not hot first, cold first.
I got cold water here. What should I have?
That matcha
Will
fizzy
this- will
sour.
this
Yeah.
kind
And you should try the gut balance. So the gut balance is 50% of your fiber intake, has fizz to it as well, made with chicory root. And I developed this product because my kids were chronically
You're putting that in
constipated.
your water?
Yes.
Putting this in my water?
Do it. You're going to love it. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited for you guys.
All right, so you're here while we're doing this because this is compelling.
Yeah, I know.
This is compelling listening for the audience.
This is our own R&D.
Now remember, this is going to fizz up, so don't go shaking that too hard.
Well, I was going to say, is this
Might explode on you.
while we're doing this,
Yeah.
while we enjoy your product. So you're here pitching. You said Japan. They're fascinated by what
Yep.
you've got.
I'm doing Panama today, Soriana, Mexico, Germany, and HEB from the U.S.
What?
Oh, I love HEB.
Yippers.
I love
Texas,
HEB.
Texas?
Yeah, Texas.
HEBs. Now, how did these meetings come about?
Oh, because, I'm rocking and rolling with the EDC and OMAFRA right now. So I applied to be one of the... It was like Dragon's Den all over again. I had to apply for it, interview, all the things, and then I got chosen.
Wow.
So I feel like I'm back on Dragon's Den. I'm, excited.
So I'm testing your gut balance.
Yeah, did you shake it?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
This is Sylvain drinking.
I don't think I put enough, actually.
Well, it's
Oh, you
a
got to
lot
put the
of...
whole thing in.
The whole
Oh,
thing?
the whole
whole
thing.
thing.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
the whole thing.
Even
whole
if
thing.
it's that full?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, while he's doing that,
Yeah.
Again, some compelling viewing. You're wearing a pin for EY. Are they you like to wear your auditor's pin? Is that what you do?
Yeah, you know what? Oh, gosh.
Yeah, we all do that.
EY has been the biggest supporter for me for 12 years, and they were not my auditor until last year. But even all through the years, I was one of their EY winning women. I was chosen in 2012, which was a huge honor.
They do a good...
Before Dragons Den.
No, right after
Right,
No,
okay.
sorry, 2014. It was 2014.
Okay.
Huge honor.
Oh,
and,
so good. I get the fizz. I'm doing the matcha fizz.
Isn't that good?
Boy, that's good.
I know. Over ice with a splash of gin is even better.
I did not know you can actually bring fizz to water with powder.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was possible.
Yeah. Well, you should have my husband on here next. He's the chemical engineer.
That's a different podcast. All right, tell us more.
Oh, that's very
Isn't that good?
Good.
And that's
Yeah.
one flavor. We have 6. So,
Wow.
Yeah, we innovate all at
So-
Hamilton, Ontario.
So you're pitching all these countries.
Yep.
Are you still with your, and this is a segue to the next question, are you still in your multi-level marketing model in the other countries? And
Yes.
And the part B of the question is, are you thinking about traditional or conventional?
Yes.
So you go direct to consumer as well, right?
Yeah.
But are you thinking about, why would you be here if you don't want to meet a few buyers from a
Right.
few big names that we know?
Well, here's the thing. The world's changed. 20 years ago when I started this company, direct sales was the biggest ticket in the market. For people who wanted a side hustle. COVID was amazing for all direct selling companies. Everyone exploded because everyone was sitting at home doing, right? But what else?
Shopping around.
Right. But what else happened was that every company out there, Amazon, Walmart, they all figured out influencer marketing.
Right.
So after COVID, we started to see a huge hit in this industry. And so now it's time for this industry to evolve. I love giving women and men side hustles, but we need to expand the brand. We need to start looking at an omni-channel approach, right? Meet the customer where they're at. Not everybody's going to buy through MLM. People want to buy through Amazon. People want to buy through retail. I'm going to meet every customer where they are, and that is going to be great branding for every single channel. You've got your consultants out there spreading the word. You've got your retail, your Amazon. So I see it as a win-win for everybody.
Fantastic. Yeah. I also have one of the top retail podcasts in America, and we often talk about.
It's called Remarkable Retail.
Okay.
Yeah.
But one of the things we often talk about is the fiction behind the DTC model.
Yep.
And It was true at a time, but it is no longer true that you can build a business profitably in DTC. It's very hard because all the platforms charge you so much money.
Absolutely.
The initial thing is like, oh, I don't have to pay listing fees and I don't have to share my profit with a grocer. Yeah, but then you got to pay Facebook, Instagram, and you got to pay all the influencers. So you need a balanced model, right? And that's the modern approach, which is ironic because you're going to go back in a bit of a traditional approach. Well, listen, this has been great. What's next?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I'm off to Shanghai, CL, in 3 weeks.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
So
I am working with the trade commissioners there. Apparently, Asia Pacific is the fastest growing area for Canada. So, and the Chinese love Health Canada approved products. So I've had multiple meetings.
They respect quality, right?
And they respect quality. They love Canada. So that's...
Oh, you remember what I told you about food safety?
Yes.
They know.
They know. Right. Yeah.
Canadians don't know, but they know.
Exactly. And I did brag about that. And I told everyone to brag about that. I think I've tagged you in that post because Canadians are way too humble. Come on. You know what I found out yesterday? And it blew my mind. I was at a networking event. It was about how to export outside of Canada. And this woman said that Canadians are well known all over the world for being the nicest people in the world. And we are. Well, however, they don't take us seriously as business people because we're too nice. We don't have enough moxie. We are too polite, too accommodating, and they don't take us seriously. I think we need to change this as Canadians. We can still be nice, but we can...
You should have seen us when we went to the U.S. booth. No, I'm just kidding. The loneliest place on earth, the U.S. booth at Seattle, Canada.
Oh, my gosh, I can imagine.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks so much for joining us on the Food
Thank you for
Professor
having
podcast.
me.
It's a real treat.
Yeah.
Great to know you. And Sylvain met you already, and he said, we've got to have this person on the podcast.
I love it. Thank you
Well,
so much.
I mean, the world would be a better place if we had more Tanias.
Oh,
there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And more of you, too, as well. So this has been
Well,
fun.
our job is to make you guys look good and give you guys a voice. Because, I mean, we're all in the food industry, and the food space doesn't get the attention it deserves.
No.
And so that's why we created this podcast. That's what we're here to celebrate food, celebrate the work that you guys do.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you for featuring me, and thank you for featuring women founders. I mean, we are also unique in the space of entrepreneurship, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
If someone is listening and wants to get in touch with you to do some business or just connect with you, how do they do that?
They can connect with me on LinkedIn under Tonia Jahshan. I'm all over Instagram, Facebook. I'm everywhere. Just Google my name.
If you don't connect with Tonia, she will connect with you
Yeah, that
eventually.
is true.
She'll find you. She'll find you eventually.
I will find
It's
you.
not a threat, it's a promise.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right. We are back. Couple of things just to finish off here. Did you see that McDonald's is wrapping up their Cosmics pilot? And there's two schools of thought. One, that didn't go very far, or two, they learned a lot and what they needed to learn, what they needed to learn, and now they're wrapping it up. But any thoughts on the pilot?
I mean, you need pilots. You can't really fully commit to something as big as, I mean, Cosmic was basically a different store. I mean, so when you think about real estate and everything else, and frankly, but McDonald's is a real estate company first and foremost. You got to test the market and see what happens. And I guess results were not very encouraging. And so I'm not surprised or surprised. I just think it was the right thing. I mean, it's typical. McDonald's typically will test the market before committing to anything.
Sure.
And so yeah. And what's interesting in this case is they actually made an announcement, and I don't know if it's deliberate, but typically when McDonald's actually decide not to pursue something, they just quietly end it.
Yeah, that tends to be more, in my experience, that tends to be more products. We tested this market for a product. The product didn't work. We'll just close it out. What I do appreciate about McDonald's doing this is many companies, perhaps too many companies, let it linger for years because it's not politically, advantageous to say it didn't work, or we're just going to give it another try, or let's have another executive with a new view to give it a try. So I certainly greatly appreciate trying, and then also knowing when, as Mr. Rogers would say, know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
Yeah.
So that seems to be what they did. Let's finish off kind of where we started, back in Texas. It's a big week in Texas barbecue, which you may or may not know. The Texas Monthly Magazine's Top 50 is out. This is done every 4 years, where Daniel Vaughn, lead writer and barbecue expert extraordinaire, and a team of people travel to almost 400 different barbecue places in Texas and ranks the top 50. And the top 10 list, this was just released this week. Have you had Texas barbecue yet, by the way?
No, I'm planning to have some tonight, actually.
Well, I'll send you this list to see if there's anything locally. I've been to 3 of them. So the 3 of the top 10, and there's been some movement. The first was 4 years ago was Goldie's, right in the pandemic. Interstellar and Dane's Craft Barbecue rose up very quickly. So I've been to 3 of the 10, and our prior guest, Chuck Charnichart from Lockhart, Texas, with her Barb's BQ, actually made their next 50 list, which is also very prestigious. Basically, if you make that top 10 list, your business just goes crazy. It's kind of like the Michelin Awards of food in
that's
Texas.
Great.
So congratulations to everybody who made.
But I got to tell you, in Texas, it's hard. If you're a vegan or vegetarian, it's a lonely place. So I have to ask you: have you been to Buc-ee's?
Buc-ee's, oh yeah, I love Buc-ee's.
I must admit, I've never been to Buc-ee's until yesterday.
Yeah, what do you think? What did you think?
I was impressed. I mean, it's
biggest convenience store in the world.
Gas stop on steroids. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And when you walk in, you can smell all the briskets, and you have to buy one. You have
brisket
to buy
sandwiches. The
and
energy
did you see
from the people.
The counter of beef jerkies.
The wall of pickled eggs. For those who are not familiar.
Oh my God! I mean, it was just I saw
Buc-ee's.
People grocery shop there. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
Yeah. So for the listener, for a sense of scale, there's I was at a Buc-ee's between Dallas and Austin. There's 250 gas pumps. And that gives you an idea of scale.
So when I went to Buc-ee's, which was what's in my I thought it was enormous. So I went to ask and talk to the manager there. The largest Buc-ee's is in Louisiana, and it was triple the size of the Buc-ee's I was in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
it's a phenomenon. And a fun factoid: no trucks, only passenger.
18-wheelers are not allowed.
Cleanest They win every award: cleanest washrooms, best washrooms in the state, in every state that they operate, which is started in Texas. Yeah, Buc-ee's, love Buc-ee's. What a phenomenon! I always talk it up when I'm talking to other retailers about, like, you can make great experiences.
Well, every time when I went back to Canada, I talked about Texas. The first thing people, have you been to Buc-ee's?
Funny, right?
Yeah.
It's true.
So I've been to Buc-ee's.
It is an outsized convenience store with an outsized influence and outsized reputation, all well earned. So if you ever happen to be driving those parts, do stop in. Well, this has been great. Great episode. It's fun to kind of talk about both Canada and the context looking to Canada from the U.S. Gives us some color commentary from someone on the ground about the headlines we're seeing and potential impacts. So we'll continue to do that. We've got a few episodes left for the season. And then we'll be running our fantastic interviews. Even though one of the interview today is from there, it's you and me. We've got just a treasure chest of interviews to run all summer back until we start up again with you and me and then live. But we got a few episodes left. So anyway, let's leave it there. I'm Michael LeBlanc, consumer growth advocate, media baron, and you are?
I'm the food professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Safe travels, everybody. Stop in at Buc-ee's.
Take care.